Welcome to It's Our Time with Scott Ryan. I'm your host, Scott Ryan. And today we have a very special guest. It is Russ Tamblyn, Dr. Jacoby from Twin Peaks, Riff from West Side Story, or Dr. Amp for the 6 of you who watched The Return. That's just a joke. It's a joke. We joke about the Twin Peaks because we love it. And it's really cool. He wrote an autobiography called Dancing on the Edge, and it's just incredible, all the people that he has interacted with. We have a great talk. I think you're really going to enjoy it. It's a big honor. I met him years ago, but this is the first time I ever got to interview him. So that's going to come up. But first, I do have a bit of an announcement. You know, I'm promoting my 90s book right now, The Last Decade of Cinema. If you are a fan of movies from the 90s, you might want to check it out, especially if you like Reality Bites, because it has an interview with Helen Childress. That's incredible. And that's out now. But when you're working at, like, I finished writing that book in August. And then by the time a book comes out, I'm always working on the next book. And since I have a Twin Peaks guest today, I figured that I would announce my next book, which is going to be about the music of Twin Peaks. It's going to be called Always Music in the Air. And I'm going to show you the front cover so you can immediately say why you don't like it on social media. I know that's very important. This is a service that I provide to the internet. So by all means, tell me how I could have had a better cover, but I really like it. It means something to me. If you're a deep cut Twin Peaks fan, hopefully it is, the little Easter eggs in there mean something to you as well. So I've been interviewing a lot of great people. Look at bluerosemag.com or Tucker DS Press for future pre-ordering abilities. I have no idea when it's going to come out, but I just wanted to announce it since we had Dr. Jacoby on here, and in it I sort of mentioned interviewing someone because there's a really cool connection between West Side Story and Twin Peaks that I discovered in interviewing Kenny Landrum, who played all the keyboards, or not all of them, but the majority of the keyboards for the Twin Peaks music. So, you know, that is for another day. Always Music in the Air. Look for it. Coming in 2025. I don't know when it's coming. I haven't written a word yet. But I have done like some incredible interviews, so you're going to enjoy it, especially if you love the music, which you better love the music. Speaking of, if you heard that, that is Dr. Jacoby music that we're listening. So let's get to Dr. Jacoby. Thank you so much, Russ, for joining us here at the Blue Rose Magazine, which is about Twin Peaks, of course. But I want to start with our mutual admiration for Stephen Sondheim.
Oh,
When we met at the Twin Peaks Festival in 2016, I was probably the only person that talked to you about Sondheim. What was it like to meet him when he was the least famous person? You know, you were probably more excited to meet Jerome Robbins or Leonard Bernstein, but then Sondheim becomes this amazing figure.
he was well known when I met him. In fact, I think that I did one of his shows at the Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera. I did what was the show I did in Pittsburgh?
Follies.
Follies.
Follies. Okay, so that was 71 or 2 probably when it came out. Do you remember who you played? Now I'm
He
did
played
you play
Buddy.
Benjamin Stone?
Buddy.
He played Buddy.
Oh, Buddy.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you sang Buddy's Blues, which is like a show-stopping number.
Yeah, it's a great number. You come out in a bike or something like that in a little container. It was very exciting. And it was at the Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera in Pittsburgh. So it was really a fun experience. And then I met him later, really, in New York. I just met him kind of briefly. I mean, not wasn't it wasn't a long, but we both admired each other, I think, and talked and for a little bit.
I just think it's such an interesting thing for you because you got him at the beginning because West Side Story was his front part, and then you watch him blossom into the greatest Broadway composer of all time. And it
Yeah,
has, you're one of the unique people who could have watched that growth and known him through there.
he wasn't around the film. Neither was Bernstein.
Hmm.
Leonard Bernstein was came out when we were shooting, and we had a party for him. So we met at a party, and it was great to meet him. I mean, he was pretty.
I know you've met some incredible people. So I just discovered the connection between Sondheim and Twin Peaks, and I think this is pretty exciting. Kenny Landrum is the keyboard player that played for Angelo Badalamenti on all the Twin Peaks music.
Oh,
And I just interviewed him, and he told me that he saw a picture of you and Richard Beamer that you guys were going to be in Twin Peaks, and he said, "Guys, we got to add finger snaps." And that's why finger snaps are in Audrey's dance and Dance of the Dream Man. I've never heard that story before. Did you
I
know that
kind
you
of figured
inspired that?
David Lynch. I mean, he tried to, as I remember anyway, he tried to ignore the fact that both of who we were, of both Richard and because Richard was cast in it first, and and then I was cast later, but it was by and West Side Story was never mentioned or the snapping. So I think it was part of it was a coincidence.
No, it's secrets.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's kind of a cool connection. So you guys filmed the pilot of Twin Peaks, but then it doesn't air for a year.
That's right.
What was that time like for you waiting? You knew you had something and you had to wait this whole year for it to come out. What was that like?
It was waiting, boy. It was, and it was also. I I had a year to think about it and to think about my character, about Dr. Jacoby. And one of the things I decided to do was I thought I wanted to get a, a crazy pair of sunglasses, and so I went down to the Venice boardwalk and next to Santa Monica here, um, and I because they have a lot of sunglasses on that street. So I found a place that had a lot, and I was looking at all of them, different colored sunglasses and different types, and I boiled it down to two pair, to a red pair and a blue pair, and I actually was putting the pair of glasses. Bonnie, can you get the glasses? And I can.
Where did you hide them this time?
I'd like to help you, but got a little problem here.
They're in the safe, I hope, because that's pretty important.
Oh my, yes.
For my daughter, I took them out. They're not in here, honey. I think
Oh, is
they're in.
Amber plays with them sometimes?
They might be in the drawer.
And the fucks are at it again.
I mean, these need to be out on the mantle with spotlights coming down. That's what I'm looking for.
Well,
I
anyway,
love.
I went and I had a pair of red pair I boiled it down to, and a pair of blue, and I kept looking in, and I looked in the mirror, then I put the other glasses on. I looked and I looked like that, and I thought, boy, they both look great, but I can't figure. So I put it like this, and then the other color I put on the other eye, and I looked and I said, "Ah, that's it." I have one red lens and one blue lens. So I went and I had them made, and then I thought, well, I'll take them to David and see what he thinks about it. So, and then I made up this story that I thought really sounded like he would be interested in it. It's the bicameral brain. One side of your brain is,
The right side of the brain is very creative and emotional,
I can never remember.
and the left side of the brain is very analytical and detail-oriented.
So we've got a creative side and an analytical side. So I put the red lens over the analytical side, and the blue lens was over
Creative emotional.
the creative emotional side. So I explained that to David and said, I got these, I like to wear these glasses. And I explained the bicameral effect. And he said, Russ, he said, Russ, I think that's a great idea. He says, the only thing is, let's not tell anybody. Let's not tell anybody what you're wearing them for. And so that was David's
Of course.
idea. What?
But then Mark Frost put it in his book.
Yeah,
And
Mark.
I have my Dr. Jacoby trading card that I've had since 1991. And it's got the red and blue right on there. So we've got the glasses right there. Amber didn't steal mine. She stole your glasses, but mine are fine.
Dear God, Russ.
So did you ever think that you did it? You know, it was a big mystery. Who killed Laura Palmer?
Yeah, I wondered. He never told me. And I asked him one time. I asked him, did Jacoby kill? And he finally told me. He said, "No, it's just a red herring. That the real murderer was."
Ray Wise, of course.
Ray Wise, yeah, the father. Her father killed her.
That way you got to stay on the show, so it worked out a lot better for you.
Yeah, that's true. I did stay on it. In fact, in the second version of Twin Peaks, I even liked my part better. It was I became from Dr. Jacoby, I became Dr. Amp. And
Yeah, were you surprised when you got the script at what they did with Dr. Jacoby? Did you have any ideas? And
I
then
have no idea, but I loved it. I loved it, and I was totally different than Jacoby. You wore these Hawaiian shirts, and it was totally different with when I did the second one and became Dr. Amp. I had like overalls, and it was crazy, and became a ranting. He ranted and carried on. I just loved that part. It was really great. And I did a whole thing in there about shovel your way out of the shit. And it's
well, it was really exciting because you pretty much started off the first episode spraying those shovels gold. And of course, one of your most famous dances are you dancing with shovels. Again, another connection from your film work. Do you think that had anything to do with it or another coincidence?
There's a third shovel movie too.
Yeah.
Human Highway with Neil Young.
The original shovels was from The Fastest Gun Alive that I did a dance on them. And I think it was just a coincidence that that Twin Peaks, I think David Lynch didn't even know about the dancing in The Fastest Gun Alive. And he just set up a scene where I was painting the shovels and selling, and then selling them for $29 or something.
$29.95.
$29.95.
Tell Scott about the shovels in Human Highway. Do you know about the movie Human Highway?
Now that one I don't know. I've of course seen you the famous scene of you dancing with the shovels, but I don't know about you and Neil Young and the shovels.
I was choreographing the movie. We used the shovels in that, and then Dean Stockwell too was in the scene where we, all three of us,
And
got
Dennis Hopper.
got on. Yeah, but he didn't do the shovels.
He was dancing with shovels. We have a photo of him dancing
Oh,
with shovels.
yeah, he was dancing with them, but he wasn't dancing on them like.
No, but it was a whole choreography, Busby Berkeley kind of thing with shovels, and it was Devo had shovels, and I think it's kind of cool that the shovels have been kind of a
Yeah. I didn't know about that one. It's interesting how much you and Charlotte Stewart have in common because she has an Elvis story. She was an Elvis. She has a Neil Young story. Did you and Charlotte ever swap Elvis stories when you were on Twin Peaks?
I mean, we talked a lot, and had dinner together, and but we never talked about that about both of us. What was her story?
Well, I'll tell you, I have been lucky enough to travel with Charlotte at different Twin Peaks things, and we went into a music store. And they were selling old Rolling Stones, and Neil Young was on the cover. And Charlotte picks this up and said, I had a great date with him, but I had to cancel it to go with Jim Morrison. And the guy working at the counter looks up at, this little old lady of Charlotte Stewart and just shook his head. And I was like, no, she really did. And he was like, yeah. And went back. And I said, I guess it's just hard to be Charlotte Stewart in the world. Some people know Jim Morrison and Elvis and Neil Young, but it was a great experience. But let's hear your Elvis story. When I read it, your book is called Dancing on the Edge, I should say. You have a book out. I was so excited to talk to you, I forgot to promote it. Uh, but your Elvis story really surprised me. I'd never heard that. Can you tell our viewers about you and Elvis?
yeah, okay, and this is my book, by the way.
Yeah, it's great.
Trying to think how I actually I met Elvis through I had an old friend, an actor friend, Nick Adams, and Nick Nick met Elvis and I had a beach house, and he brought him by my beach house one time, and that's when I first met him, and then I had to go back east and do a movie at Peyton Place is what I went back to do. And I and Elvis was saying, "Boy, I really like your little beach house here." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm going to miss it. I'm going back east." He says, "Can I rent it from you for a month?" And I said, "Yeah, I think you could do that." So I went, and then I went back east, and when I came back, and Elvis said he wanted to rent the house because uh, because he said he had a whole floor in Beverly Hills that he had the whole floor and all the rooms up there, and said he got tired of all the fans hanging out below, and he wanted someplace to sneak away to. So I rented him the house, but unfortunately, uh, I thought he was just gonna like maybe bring a girl there or something, But he had parties there all the time uh, with all of his troops. But then he came to MGM to do Jailhouse Rock, and the choreographer was Alex Romero, who was the choreographer for me for Fastest Gun Alive, the shovel dance. And also I did like two or three different things. He originally was an assistant choreographer with Michael Kidd in Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. So he was a friend of mine, and I went to visit him while he was doing Jailhouse Rock, and that's when I saw Elvis again on the set and everything, and Elvis knew I was a dancer and everything. He said, "Hey, can you look at my step? And I said, sure. So we had lunch together, and he was showing me his moves, and I could see right away that I could help him out, that I could even make his legs stronger, of snapping more, so I did that, and worked on a couple of steps with him, and that's how we became friends in a way.
I love that you basically started Airbnb with Elvis Presley. This is perfect. That's awesome. You also have worked with my other favorite director outside of David Lynch. For me, number two is Quentin Tarantino.
Reservoir Dogs was I went on an audition for that. I went in to meet him, and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Russ, you're just not right for this part." And it really broke my heart practically because I wanted to work. But later on, my daughter Amber was working with him, and we went to this event, and it was in Hollywood at some big hotel, and I saw Tarantino there, and I guess I had a couple of drinks. Uh, so I went over and I sort of grabbed him in a corner. I got him in a corner, and I said, "I have to tell you that because of you, I retired. I got rid of my agents, got rid of my manager, and the and and I was so disappointed because of that." He says, "Oh my," yeah, because he said something to me like, "Whatever happened to you?" Yeah,
Ah,
the line that he said, and that really got to me and made me drop out. And so I told him that, and he said, "Oh," he says, "I'm a big fan of yours. He says, I didn't mean anything bad." So that kind of ended it. And I said, "Well, I retired." And so he asked her, he said, "Gee," he says, "I really didn't mean to hurt his feelings. What can I do?" And Amber said, "Give him a part in your next movie." And that happened to be Django Unchained.
so my last question is from my friend M. Marinelli. She said, I can't talk to you without asking you how you possibly can do a flip standing on just a bar, a piece of wood. Like, come on, how can you flip like that? Like you do in all those films.
I mean, I could do backflips easily. Um, so when I suggested that to Michael Kidd, who was choreographing Seven Brides, and so we got planks, and we put them about this far from the ground, so I could go back and forth, and then do it. And when I could do it like 10 times in a row, then we started raising it, and we got it up to where it was really bouncing, and and I could jump through an axe, but it was hard to do because if you went just that much off, and when you came down again, you'd fly off. So I had to really practice it until I could do it.
Right. I mean, I think even if I use the positive of negative thinking, I'd get a splinter right across my head. It's not going to work for me. Um, Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and it really means a lot to me, all that your work through the years. And like I said, you were super kind to me in 2016 when we met. We had a great conversation out there in Snoqualmie, and it's just really an honor to get to speak with you today.
Well, thanks a lot. I
Bye,
appreciate it.
Scott.
Okay, there we go. The great Russ Tamblyn. I mean, certainly old Hollywood, in the way that Piper Laurie and Richard Beamer like that group of people that were in Twin Peaks. It's incredible to have that classic Hollywood represented in Twin Peaks. It was an honor to get to speak with him. Please feel free to go out to the Blue Rose magazine, bluerosemag.com. You can get my Lost Highway book, which has Patricia Arquette interview and the cast and the crew, and a lot of great Twin Peaks stories in my Lost Highway book, my Fire Walk with Me book. I don't have very many of the color books left, and they are beautiful, but I think I have like 14, and there won't be reprints of those. The black and white version will last forever, but pretty soon that is going to go up in price, so I would get that. And look for pre-ordering Always Music in the Air. I almost messed up my own title, but sometime in 2025, probably not for a year or so, but once I know what's going on and can figure it out, look for that pre-order. So as always, thank you, and that was our time with Scott Ryan.